Good evening. The Rancho Board of Education meeting for Monday, February 28th, 2022 is now called to order. All please arise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Board Member Jessica Tyler will be giving that. And please mute your microphones, everyone else.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Board Member Tyler. Kim, can you take a roll call for us to see if we have a quorum?
Yes, ma'am. President Galbraith.
Present.
Vice President Morgan.
Present.
Secretary Scott.
Present.
Board Member Tripp.
I am here.
And Board Member Tyler.
Present.
We have everybody, a quorum, 5-0.
Thank you. Okay. It's nice to have everyone tonight. We want to welcome you out to our meeting. We especially want to welcome a couple of our visitors. We have Kiana Brady from Rancho High School. We also have Raquel Pena from 24/7, and we'll be hearing from them in just a little bit when we get to our reports. And also just welcome to all of our support staff and our district staff. We're just grateful for everyone who's able to be on tonight to help us to get through this meeting tonight. To get started, we will turn it over to our Superintendent of Schools for some introductory comments. Dr. Visu Cleveland.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being at our meeting this evening. I have a few introductory remarks related to the agenda for February 28th. Okay, here's some really good news. We have only 38 new cases last week of COVID in the district. And so we're really pleased to see those numbers coming down. The testing numbers are now sufficiently low enough that PMG is able to go out to the school sites and do the testing there, which alleviates the staff and students and their families having to go to a centralized site. So that just makes it so much more convenient, though the centralized site was necessary when we had such large numbers. One of the downsides is that more individuals are identified now in contact tracing, as you would expect, because people are not wearing masks and they're in closer quarters than they've been. So that's a little bit of a downside. But that being said, it's just so much more convenient to have those testing personnel going out to the school sites, and the numbers are looking very, very good. And I guess I would just say I feel like across the district, spirits are up and people are happy about that. And it's just really nice to see people smile as opposed to seeing them behind the mask. So good news on the COVID front. This evening, we have a report on the tobacco policy, and it will be presented by Rio Rancho High School Evolvement Chapter, and it will be presented by Kiana Brady, who is a student at Rio Rancho High, and Raquel Pena with 24/7. So welcome to the two of you for being with us this evening. They are proposing some changes to the board's tobacco policies, and really what we have in Rio Rancho is a lot of the policies are in different places in our policy manual because of how we categorize our policies. So most of them are there, but they are not all in one location. And I think that they would like to see those consolidated into a single policy. I do have a suggestion, based on what our previous processes are, that this information be presented to the Student Health and Wellness Committee for their review. And then generally the process is they make a recommendation to the board. However, the board can handle it certainly any way they would like to. Also, all of our board policies are reviewed by general counsel, in-house counsel, before they are presented for adoption. So that's just some procedural matters that's how we normally handle these kinds of requests. Okay, we're going to have a presentation by Beth Pendergrass, and she will discuss the proposed structure for developing our new strategic plan for the Rio Rancho School District. And in her title, she's Chief Communications, Strategy, and Engagement. And so this is that part of her position that she's worked with strategic planning over several different districts and worked with our previous plan. And she's going to be putting out a proposal for how we might get this done in our district, since the time is getting tighter and tighter. The report from Cognia has been delayed due to some internal miscommunication at Cognia. When the team came and visited and interviewed you and the other schools and people in the community, there was supposed to be a separate team that came for early childhood because they're a different division in Cognia. And I don't know that they didn't get the message of the change, which was initiated by Cognia, not by us. But that really doesn't matter. They sent a wonderful team, and they did go to Shining Stars Preschool, and they have now concluded that visit. And I will share a few of the preliminary findings with you in just a moment. But the big report is being finalized. Vicki, that you all talked with, said they had put almost everything together, waiting for this last piece. So hopefully it's not going to be very long before we get the entire document. I think once they get the early childhood information, they will put it into the report, and hopefully we will see that report very soon. It's really important that we get that report, because that report is really the foundation for the new plan. It will give us all the most current information, surveys, all of the looking at the data through that visit. And we really are hopeful to have that plan to begin the process. And again, we put over 2 years of work into the Cognia visit, and we want people to see all that work that was done is being used for something meaningful. And that's where we will begin with the plan. Here are just a few of the findings, and they will come, again, we were told these are preliminary, and the wording might change a little bit, but this is basically the findings. They found that Shining Stars Preschool met 97.88% of the requirements for Cognia's early learning accreditation. So congratulations to them for doing such a fabulous job. To have that kind of response is not usual. And so again, congratulations to them. They identified a couple of powerful practices, which is their terminology, for excellence. And so teachers and staff demonstrate high levels of skill in differentiating instruction through modeling, scaffolding, varied wait times, and for the specialized needs of the children. And when we get this back, we'll provide some more information and more in-depth information. But that was one of the powerful practices. And then the second was the school promotes an inclusive and collaborative culture that is supported through strong leadership and effective systems for stakeholder involvement. And so that's a direct credit to the administration of the school and the staff for the really fine work that they do. One of the areas they would like us to look at is a comprehensive assessment plan that will be clearly communicated to families. And we thought that was a very good suggestion on ways that we could improve. The impact theme, which is also part of the Cognia report, district-supported inclusiveness is provided through clearly communicated policies, a vertical alignment, and an intentionally designed facility for preschool learners. They loved the facility, and they thought it really was designed to meet the needs of very young children. Thought it was a model facility that other districts would benefit from seeing. And then the growth theme is child-directed activities are limited to explorations rather than age-appropriate problems to solve that deepen skills for inquiry. Always trying to get students to think, always trying to get them to inquire about new things. And so those are the preliminary findings, very brief, but it was a good visit, and the response back was very positive. So congratulations to Kim Johns and the staff at Shining Stars Preschool. Also, thanks to Jana for all of her work in getting this late visit arranged. I may have the number wrong, but I know it was well over 300 questions she had to answer one night to get ready for this, and she has provided a lot of support. So I just want to thank her as well. Okay, we will have a report this evening on social emotional initiatives and support. What are we doing in our district? What are the things we have in place? Sherry Carver, the Executive Director of Student Services, will present some of the initiatives that we are doing to meet the needs of our students. We are continuing to make social, emotional, and other areas major priority for our students. We have significantly increased both mental health. We have seen, there's been a significant increase in mental health and behavioral issues throughout the pandemic. And I don't know if you saw the article in the Observer. It was the headline story. And they had talked with Jamie Silva-Steele, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Sandoval Regional Medical Center here in Rio Rancho. And her comment was, mental health is the next pandemic. And so we are certainly seeing that play out in our district, in our community. There are so many needs, and it's very hard to find all of the resources to continue to meet those needs. But we have made increases. We have seen increases this year in both social work and in counselors and nurses. So the board did step forward last year to really help with some of those needs. And then we have increased support in our schools. As I said, it's not enough. The needs are outstripping our ability to get to some of the students. And so one of the things we continue to look for are partnerships, other agencies, working with the county and others to try to find other organizations that can help and support our district as well. We have had, Beth has been working with UNM to try to get a special class for our staff to support their emotional well-being, and that will be shared with you later, but that's an exciting opportunity. And I am meeting this week with Presbyterian to look at what they are doing in terms of support for their leadership team, and see if that's something that we might also be able to look at for some of our staff. Okay, school calendar. Our committee has been hard at work again. The school calendar for the next school year. We are really challenged right now with the lack of financial information from the public ed department. The governor still has a little bit of time to sign or veto bills, and we probably will not get the actual unit value for several more weeks. And until we have that, we really don't know what our money looks like. And so very hard waiting to get that information. We are also waiting for feedback from staff, and we'll be going to the community. I don't know where the board wants to go with the calendar. It might be advisable, I don't know, to table the calendar until we have all the pertinent information that's been received, but that certainly is up to the board and the calendar committee. Peggy is ready to present if you prefer to do that. But there's still a lot of unknowns which can impact our budget dramatically. Okay, here's a bright spot. The Boys and Girls Club contacted me and asked to meet, and we talked about some of the needs in our community. And one of the things that they had said they might possibly be able to help us with would be after school programs. And so they did some work and some research, and they've been doing some programs in APS. And they said they might be able to provide some after school activities at a couple of our middle schools. We do have to submit an application. We might or might not be chosen for funding, but if the application is approved, we would come back and have the board approve the final grant. But they are helping us with the application. They are really excited about the possibility. The two schools that were selected were Lincoln and Eagle Ridge. We hope that we would be able to expand beyond that to the next two, perhaps in the future if these two are approved. We would not be able to do anything at Rio Rancho Middle this year regardless, because they're getting ready to start a major HVAC project there, which will have a dramatic impact on what they can do in their building. But we are really, this is an area where we've had need for a really long time. We have a lot of activities for students at the high school, but we have a lot fewer at the middle school. And to have some opportunities for our organization to come in and fund and run those would just be a fabulous opportunity. And so we are asking your permission to go ahead and apply. And The reason why we're doing that is because we're not sure, but we think that we may have to have board approval in order to submit the application. And we didn't want to wait because the timeline is coming up. So again, we're just thrilled with that possibility. And hopefully we'll be able to get these two and maybe two more in the future. The New Mexico School Board Student Achievement Award is designed to recognize an individual who contributed to student achievement and well-being this past year. It is not for students. It is for adults in the community who have contributed to making the year work. And the administration submits a name for the board's consideration, but the board may also submit any names of their own choosing for this recognition as well. And I would have to tell you, this was a really hard nomination to submit because there have been so many people that have helped these last 2 years to make it through the pandemic and who've gone that extra mile. And so it was really hard to narrow it down. But we think we have a great candidate for the board to consider. But as I said, the board can certainly nominate others if you choose to do so. Are there any questions?
Board, do you have any questions for Dr. Cleveland? Okay.
No.
Okay, I will turn it back. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Jeff. Jeff, was that a question or was that a no questions?
No question. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Great. All right. Thank you, Dr. Cleveland. Appreciate those comments. I always appreciate when you give those to us. So with that, we're going to go on to approve the prioritized agenda and proposed time allocations. Quick discussion before a motion is given. Just based off of what Dr. Cleveland was saying about the instructional calendar, we can go ahead and hear from Peggy tonight and ask any questions that we want to and kind of look at those calendars. Or we can go ahead and just move this to our next meeting when we have more information. So I just kind of wanted to put it out to you guys to see if you'd like to just go ahead and leave that on the agenda for now, and we can go ahead and talk about it. And we will receive more information from teachers and principals in the next week or so. So thoughts on that?
This is Secretary Scott. I think we ought to table the calendar until we have very clear directives from where the state is going on the calendar. I think we're seeing a lot of pressure put forward to add additional days, and I just think it's something that we need to have time to review.
I see I have Peggy on. Peggy, like, is that something that you really want to discuss tonight, or would you rather just kind of hold off on talking about it?
Thank you so much, President Galbraith. I appreciate the opportunity. I am happy to do whatever the board would like to do. We have some preliminary information, but I believe you all have been able to review it. I think you were given a PDF of the draft that we have so far. But as Dr. Cleveland mentioned, there are a lot of things we are missing, a lot of information we don't have yet. I hate to get into a situation that we were in last year where we had to change the calendar a few times. I'd almost rather that when we put it out, that it's a final calendar for parents in the community and students and staff. So if you all are fine with tabling it, that is fine with me, and we'll come back when we have more information.
Okay. All right. Let me kind of check with everyone. Is everyone good? Jessica, are you good with removing that item for tonight?
Yes, I agree. We should table it.
Okay. And Gary, that's good.
I'm good.
Okay. And Jeff. Okay. Okay.
All good.
Okay, so with that, so whoever creates the motion, just make sure that you remove the report, the fourth report off of the agenda. So with that, I'll entertain a motion if someone wants to create.
I can make a motion, Madam President. I make a motion to approve the agenda with the removal of item G4 for the instructional calendar.
All right, do we have a second?
Board Member Jeff Morgan, a second.
We have a motion by Jessica Tyler and a second by Jeffrey Morgan. Kim, can you take a roll call vote for us?
Sure can. Vice President Morgan,
Yes.
Secretary Scott,
Yes.
Board Member Tripp,
Yes.
Board Member Tyler,
Yes.
and President Galbraith.
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries 5-0, and the motion is to approve the agenda except to remove the item on the calendar, correct?
Correct.
All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you. And thanks, Peggy, for putting a report together. And we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. All right. Moving on to our next item, our public comment. We received 3 public comments. I'm going to go ahead and put dates on these just to make some sense of them as I go through them. So for our public comment, we have our first one is by Christina Neighbor from February 17th, and she's asking that we remove the indoor mask mandates in our schools. We then have our second our second public comment comes from Crystal Zaragoza from February 18th, and she's asking that the board reconsider the mask requirement in elementary schools and that we remask the students in the schools due to a lot of the sicknesses and other illnesses that are going around for our kids. We then received our final public comment was from Danita Urosti. And she was asking that as we look at the calendar, that we look at APS's calendar and try to sync those calendars as much as possible. Those are our 3 public comment for the night or for tonight. For those who wish to give public comment, please do so by visiting our RRPS board page. There's a form there where you can submit comment, and we read each and every one of those, and we appreciate receiving them. So. We will also probably our next meeting we should be back in the boardroom, and we will also be able to have comments come into in person. All right, moving on to our reports. Okay, so for our first report, this is the Rio Rancho Public Schools tobacco policy. So we have Kiana Brady, our Rio Rancho High School student, here to present, along with Raquel Pena from 24/7. And so I'll turn that time to them.
Thank you so much, Madam President. As said, my name is Raquel Pena, and I am the campaign manager for 24/7. We are a program that's supported by the Department of Health, and I'm actually going to stop talking and pass it over to Kiana. She is a freshman at Rio Rancho High School and one of our new student advocates. And she's going to be delivering this presentation, and then I'll be here at the end to answer any questions. Thank you, guys.
Good evening, Board President, Superintendent, and the members of the board. My name is Kiana Brady. I am a 9th grader at Rio Rancho High School, and I am a part of a student organization called Involvement that fights against tobacco use amongst young people like my age. One of the campaigns that we support is called through Involvement is called 24/7. If we could switch to the next slide, please. 24/7 is supported by the New Mexico Department of Health and is all about creating school environments that are truly tobacco-free, 24/7, 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. That's how we got our name. Today, we would love to talk to you about how we can update the Rio Rancho Public Schools tobacco policy to be 100% tobacco-free. If you would like to change the slide, please. 24/7's main campaign goal is for our state of New Mexico to pass a law adopting our policy with 100% tobacco-free guidelines. This would ensure that all schools in the entire state would be covered and better protective. But until then, we have a lot of work on the ground to do to spread awareness and make a big difference at the local level. Our first biggest priority is to help entire school districts, just like this one, to adopt comprehensive policies to cover our schools in their districts. Secondly, we help individual schools by providing free resources to communicate and enforce tobacco-free resources. and enforce tobacco-free resources for school environments. If you could change the slide, please.
Actually, I think we're one slide ahead. If you wouldn't, yes, that's perfect. Thank you.
Sorry. Thanks to the hard work of hundreds of students advocates throughout New Mexico, the 24/7 campaign has made a lot of progress over the past few years. There are 17,700 plus surveys and support cards. We've done over 120 events. We've had about 192 school board meetings with 68 principal meetings and 14 actively comprehensive school districts and 188 tobacco-free schools, and 75,100 plus students are covered by all of our policies, and there's so much more in the works. If you could change to the next slide. Thank you. Thanks to the hard work of hundreds of student advocates throughout New Mexico, the 24/7 campaign has made a lot of progress over the past few years. The program is funded by New Mexico, the Department of Health. Our policies have higher standards than current state requirements. The Tobacco Control Legal Consortium has reviewed and been approved by our policies, and participating schools will receive a free resource and outgoing support program. One of the reasons I feel that our schools really need to be tobacco free is because I have seen how tobacco can affect people's lives, especially in school and in my life, because a lot of my family members use tobacco products, and I've seen how that affects their lives in a negative way. We know that all schools already have some type of tobacco policy in place. So what makes 24/7 so special, you might ask? Well, 24/7 is actually founded by New Mexico's Department of Health, and all the schools that participate with 24/7 can receive a lot of great resources like tobacco-free signs, facility trainings, and more. Next slide, please. Our standards for 100% tobacco-free policy are pretty high because they come from the Department of Health. In fact, they meet and exceed state requirements. All of these items must be met in order for school districts to be considered a comprehensive partner of 24/7. Next slide, please.
Sorry, please go back to the required slide, one before. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. We completed a policy analysis comparing the Rio Rancho public school policy to the Department of Health standards that 24/7 abides by. And it looks like it hasn't been updated since 2018. If I'm not mistaken, there is no visitor tobacco policy that we could find. Here are a few requirement items that the district policy needs to ensure it is to be 100% tobacco free. We would need to create a visitors tobacco policy section, to consolidate all tobacco language into tobacco for sections for students, staffs, and visitors, include distribution and possession as prohibited for students, staff, visitors, and not just tobacco use. Prohibit liquid nicotine containers for students. Prohibit all tobacco and nicotine advising. Progress and supportive discipline measures for students that should be available. Those are just a few of the requirements. If we could go to the next slide. We also have a list of recommendations which are not required but are definitely encouraged to strengthen the tobacco policy even more. These are just a few. If you could go to the last slide. We will be giving a tobacco. 24/7 actually offers a policy language to make these updates easier. If the board agrees to make our requested changes to be 100% compensated 24/7, will provide free bilingual signs and toolkits with resources on how to enforce new guidelines. These will be sent to all schools in the district. And secondly, 24/7 has a faculty training resources as well as to educate the staff on our new policy. And if you could go back to thank you. And finally, 24/7 will help secure positive media coverage for your decision to go 100% tobacco free. If you could go to the last slide. Thank you for giving us a chance to share about 24/7 and how it can just strengthen our tobacco policies. As a student of this district, I would love to see our campuses become 100% tobacco free. Now I would like to open it up to any questions that the board may have about taking next steps. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you. And first, Kiana, I just want to say thank you you have like a very bright future ahead of you. That was a great presentation. You did a wonderful job. And so it can be scary to kind of come onto these meetings. And you did a really good job. So thank you for coming on and doing that. It means, I'm sure Raquel probably told you that it means so much more to hear it coming from a student. And so thank you for being willing to present that. First, a quick question for you, Kiana. In your group, how many people are in your, it's Involve, is that what it's called? How many kids are in that program with you?
At my school, I think there's about 30,
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, it's involvement. Thank you.
Involvement. Awesome. That's wonderful. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go around to the board and just see if anyone has any questions. So just give us a moment. We'll start with Noreen Scott.
I have no questions, but I echo what President Galbraith said. You did a wonderful presentation. It's not easy to do this, and we're very grateful. I appreciate your enthusiasm and your professional presentation.
Thank you, Noreen. Gary Tripp?
I have no questions, Madam President. I would just like to say to Raquel and Kiana that, boy, impressive, professionally done, and just simply impressive. And I should have worn sunglasses because the future looks so bright. Thank you.
Thanks. I will go to Jeffrey Morgan.
Kiana, I don't have any questions, Raquel, but fantastic job. I just want to echo what Noreen Scott and Amanda said. Yeah, this is not easy. I mean, there's guys like me that's been doing this for over the last 2.5 years, and I still get nervous. And I thought you did a fantastic job. Keep up the good work, and you definitely have a bright future. And thanks for the information. This was good stuff as well.
Thank you. And then last, Jessica Tyler.
I echo what everybody else says. Kiana, great job. And I love your enthusiasm and willingness to take a leadership role with such a large task. I know that, trying to get a program started like that is not easy. And so I appreciate the support that you have from Raquel and trying to roll this out from the Department of Health. The only question I have is, what is the timeline that you guys are trying to use to try to see if we would be willing to adopt these policies?
We're very flexible. So we have 14 districts that are currently using our policies, and they all take different amounts of time. Sometimes districts are able to take it to the next board meeting and vote it in. Other times they need to, wait until a few readings pass. Still others wait until the summer if they're, reworking their policies as a whole. So we're flexible and always here and available to you guys. If there are additional questions or if it would be beneficial, as Dr. Cleveland said, to present before the SHAC, we're happy to do that. We've done that for other school boards in the past that want to bring us in to them to discuss it as well. So whatever timeline is best for you guys works for us.
Thank you.
All right, and thank you. And Dr. Cleveland, did you want to add anything?
Just my thanks for you coming, and it was a great job, and it is still a really pressing issue in our schools today. It's not something that has gone away, and so we do appreciate your leadership and continuing to deal with a very challenging problem that affects so many of our students and families. So thank you again for being here this evening.
All right. Well, thank you. So our next steps will be, really having our legal counsel kind of take a look at it. And then we'll kind of go from there. So thank you so much for coming on and presenting to us tonight. I think along with this, we've had a lot of changes in the state with the legalization too of marijuana. And I was just talking to Dr. Cleveland that with those policies, we definitely want to make sure we review them too, and just make sure that everything's up to date and where it should be. So thank you so much for being on tonight. Anything else you want to add before leaving tonight, either of you?
I don't think so, but thank you all so much for your time and for the kind words that you had to say about Kiana. We're very proud of her.
Thank you. I see Dr. Cleveland has one last comment. Go ahead, Dr. Cleveland.
Just one last question, Madam President. Do you want this to go to the SHAC? Generally, these kinds of things go to the Student Health and Wellness Committee. I think we do whatever the board would like done. I'd just like some clarification.
No, yes, let's please go ahead and do that. That would be great.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Dr. Cleveland, I think you re-rose your hand. I don't know if you want to, if you actually had anything. There we go. Okay. So for our next report is going to be our strategic planning process. We have Beth Pendergrass, our Chief Communications Strategy and Engagement Officer, here to present to us.
Good evening, Madam President Galbraith, Dr. Cleveland, members of the board. Once again, I'm Beth Pendergrass, the Chief Communications Strategy and Engagement Officer for Rio Rancho Public Schools, and I'm here this evening to talk about our structure for developing our new strategic plan. I'll wait for Claudia to get the PowerPoint up. I can share it as well, if that would be helpful. Her computer froze, so I'm going to go ahead and share it.
Okay.
All right. All right. Can we see that?
Looks good.
Great. I'll be looking at my computer screen, so if I miss anything, call me out.
Okay.
So first we want to kind of start with, I think it's always important when we begin strategic planning that we really spend time looking at our last plan, what we were able to accomplish, because I think it's important that we look to the past as we plan for the future. And so before I get into the process for the new strategic plan, I just wanted to kind of touch briefly on our plan that just expired last year. I love this quote, greatness is not in where we stand, but in what direction we are moving. We must sail sometimes with the wind and sometimes against it, but sail we must and not drift nor lie at the anchor. So I think of this quote and I think of the last strategic plan because certainly there were some things that got in the way, COVID-19. And so we really had to forge almost taking a different route, but still staying on path to what we wanted to complete. Sometimes we were pushing the boat, sometimes we were pulling the boat, but always kind of staying on course to what we wanted to complete. I think it's important also that we talk about those guiding forces that were a part of our last strategic plan and certainly in their planning as we move forward. Our mission statement was originally developed when the district was established in 1994. This mission statement is very similar to the original. It's shorter, but a lot of the words are still the same. And then our vision was developed with our last strategic planning process. And so this vision certainly is one that could adjust, but these two, the mission and vision, help guide our last strategic plan. In addition, we also have the RRPS beliefs. These also go all the way back to when the district was established in 1994. A lot of them are the same. Some have been added. Some of the words have been adjusted just slightly. But those also certainly play a big part in developing our plans. The other piece in our last plan, and board member Tripp was a big part of this, was our profile of a graduate. And this was developed in 2016 as part of the planning process. And this really pulled in community members, teachers, students, board members, parents, a number of staff members to really look at what we wanted our graduates to look like when they leave Rio Rancho Public Schools. And this profile of a graduate really became the guiding document for the strategic plan that was completed for the 2016 to 2021 years. I'm not going to go into great detail with the plan. I did provide a link to the board. In addition, a link with all the accomplishments that we tracked. But there were 4 main pillars: team, community, student, and process and resource. And I just wanted to touch briefly on some highlights in each one. A number of these highlights could probably be a presentation in themselves. So if you see something you're interested in learning more about, I'm sure that we can get you that information. Under team pillar highlights, we had a lot of, our focus was around recruitment and retaining staff. And so we had our teacher intern program that you guys are well aware of. And we've seen a lot of success with that program. Our job fairs that we're doing, really outreach to applicants, social media ads, streamlining applications, alternative licensure advisors. So a number of things under the team pillar that have really helped with our staff recruitment and retention. And our community pillar highlights Parent University, our social media presence, our new website and our app, our video production. In addition, I think the things that are really important is the CTE expanded offerings, because this was really guided by the community and what they wanted. In addition, our public-private partnership with the building of Joe Harris Elementary, and then of course, completing Joe Harris Elementary and Shining Stars Preschool, because bonds and planning for the future were certainly included as we plan ahead. Our student success pillars, we've done a lot of work with PBIS, suicide awareness, and really focusing on trying to engage parents around those issues. Collaborating with UNM Health Sciences to provide wraparound services. Our technology, our one-to-one, COVID really pushed us on that and we had to move quickly, but it's an accomplishment and we're proud of it. Opening the Spark Academy, job-embedded professional learning opportunities, rigorous, guaranteed and viable curriculum, high expectations. So continuing to do the great work that we do in our teaching and learning. And then process and resource, improved communication with staff, starting to collect, one of the things we really wanted to work on was making sure that we were writing down and documenting our processes and putting them in a place where staff knew they could find them and get them whenever they needed. So we did a lot of work around our processes and resources. Of course, we had challenges. The last 5 years were not without challenges. COVID-19 presented some massive challenges, but also some really great opportunities that really taught us some things. For example, doing Parent University online, that really grew to be a fantastic opportunity for parents to be able to stay home and be educated on different topics of importance. Really getting our one-to-one technology initiative going, providing hotspots, learning different ways of doing things. I think COVID-19 helped with that. And so while it was challenging, we still kept on our path and what we wanted to complete. Other challenges, our last plan was a 5-year plan. As I review it, a lot of our goals, we set those goals in year 1 with the anticipation that we'd complete those in year 5. When you set goals for long term like that, it makes it challenging because you have leadership changes, you have personnel changes, the work that one leader was working on changes. And so as we move forward, I have some ideas around that we'll talk about tonight. Metrics, making sure that we're collecting the right measures and metrics, and then resources versus SMART goals, ensuring that we have the resources available to do the things that we want to do. So that's just a really brief outline of our last plan before we get into planning for the future. So we'll get to the important stuff. Our new strategic plan timeline. This is a really short timeline. We're going to be working hard. We're going to have a lot of evening meetings. But this just kind of briefly shows what the timeline looks like. So this month, we're really focusing on an environmental scan and collecting information from all of our stakeholders to really help determine where we want to go in the future. In April and May, we're going to look at completing our focus group meetings, our steering committee meetings, and then in May and July, we'd like to present our plan to the board for final approval, and this would be the public-facing document. And then once we have that, then we'd start working on our implementation plans, and we'll talk about that here in a second. So right now, as I said, we're kind of in our stakeholder input and gathering information. So we have a number of presentations that we've scheduled, and we're going to add to those presentations. The main goal of this is really to get out to our community, get out to our parents, our staff members, even our students, and collect information from them as to what they want to see the district look like in the future and what they find to be most important. Along with that, we have a survey that we have developed that we will be sending out via staff email, parent email in the community. I have little postcards that we've developed that we're going to distribute and have those put out around the community as well. So really throughout the month of March, we want to collect as much feedback as we can from our stakeholders. It's really important. Once we finish the stakeholder and collect all that information, we're going to move on to our focus groups. And these are really going to be a diverse representation that's reflective of our populations, different positions, different backgrounds. And you can kind of see there the makeup of each of those focus groups. They'll look the same. We want to make sure that we have all voices included in those focus groups. So all three focus groups will look entirely the same, and they will start doing the work as far as reviewing the mission and the vision, completing the SWOT. They'll review the accreditation findings and the survey feedback that we've collected over the last month. Then they'll really start looking at common strategic themes and objectives. It's important to point that those accreditation findings will be included in the work that we do. So we'll be sure that when those strategic themes are identified, those accreditation findings roll up right under whichever theme they best fit under. Once we've completed our focus groups, we are going to put together a steering committee, which will include people from 3 of the focus groups. So we'll have a handful of participants from each of the focus groups. And the makeup will look similar to a focus group. They'll be given the opportunity to review the final draft plan and provide feedback throughout the process. So as the steering committee works through the process of completing the final plan, which will include the strategic themes, objectives, critical initiatives, and key measures, then we'll continue to send that information to every single person that participated in the focus group so they can continue to be involved and see how the work is progressing. The purpose of the steering committee is to review all that information and all the work that the focus groups have done and narrow it down into our strategic plan. And again, those accreditation findings will be included in that strategic plan. So once the steering committee is done, we should have a public-facing document. And this is a sample. This is from Cognia. So you can see it includes the strategic themes. It has your objectives, your critical initiatives, and your key measures. So this will be the basic plan that should come out of the steering committee for final approval by the board. Once the board's approved the plan, then we'll move on to an implementation team. So the implementation team will then start to detail the activities for each year in order to address the critical initiatives. And all of this information will be tracked in the Cognia eProve My Journey system, which will allow us to be better prepared for our next accreditation as we have this information right in their system. And this will be a yearly implementation plan. So each year we will track all the activities and work towards our goals. And then we'll present those accomplishments to the board and share those with the stakeholders, including anyone who had participated in the building of the plan. And this is a sample of kind of what that looks like for a critical initiative. And you can see how it gets down to the activities, what's required financially, your measures, 30, 60, 90-day targets. And this is just a graphic that kind of demonstrates what we went through. So the idea is that we start out here and we collect as much information as we can in the environmental scan, really getting feedback from our stakeholders and understanding where they'd like to see the district go. Then we narrow it down more into our focus groups, really trying to pinpoint the strategic themes and objectives, and then finally down into our steering committee that develops the strategic plan. So it's really, that's the development of the plan. And then we go into executing the plan with your year 1 implementation, year 2 implementation, and year 3 implementation. And I just want to stop here really briefly. You know, I would recommend doing a 3-year plan. We've done a 5-year plan, but things are changing so rapidly. It's almost challenging for school districts to do a 5-year plan. So my recommendation would be to look at a 3-year plan. And then, of course, I talked to you earlier about the survey. So this will go live right now. So the board can complete it. Community members can complete it. So we have the little postcards that will be out and about around the community. And so this information is really going to help us determine what people would like to see for the district. And so with that, I stand for questions.
All right, thank you. I almost completed the survey because I had the link and I was like, no, I don't want to be the only person, like the first person on there. So thank you for that. This looks great. So I'll go ahead and just start going over to the board. And we'll start with Gary Tripp. You have any questions, comments?
I don't have any questions. I'm just totally impressed, Beth, and boy, it just looks like it's so targeted, and the actions are. It just looks great. Looking forward to it. Thank you, Beth.
Thanks, Gary.
Noreen Scott.
Yeah, my question is, how collaborative is it with the board before it gets to the approval stage? Are we going to kind of be kept up to date all the way along?
So, and if we go back to the focus groups, I actually want board members on each focus group. So really from the get-go, and so I have it set for either 2 members or 1 member per focus group. So each board member has an opportunity to participate in that initial planning stage. And then when we get to the steering committee, having 1 or 2 board members on the steering committee, and then we would bring it to the board for approval. And then, of course, when we get to implementation, the board is very important on the yearly basis and looking at where we want to go with our actions and strategies.
Thanks, Beth. I'm anxious to serve on a focus group, so that's great.
Okay. Jessica Tyler.
Yeah, great presentation, Beth. Strategic plans can be one of the most cumbersome and difficult things to execute. And so I love the plan. It looks like it is very doable. I think that the timeline's ambitious, but I also think that, you know, these things can go on forever. So I actually like the shorter timeline because I don't like to see these things dragged out too long. So I think the plan looks great, and I look forward to getting our next strategic plan done. So thanks.
Thank you.
And Jeffrey Morgan.
I don't have any questions, but just wanted to say, Beth, thanks for the work that you've done. Real nice stuff, and looking forward to the results.
Thank you.
And then Dr. Cleveland, did you want to add anything?
No, I think it's been covered very well. So no, I really don't have anything to add.
All right. Well, thank you. And Beth, I'm really excited too. I think this is going to be actually kind of fun to work through. Maybe not as fun for you because I just kind of get to go along for the ride, but I think it's going to be great. So thank you for putting this together for us tonight.
Thank you.
All right. And then for our third report, we have an update on social emotional learning programs and initiatives. Sherry Carver, our Executive Director of Student Services, is here to present.
Good evening, President Galbraith, members of the board, and Dr. Cleveland. Thank you for having us here tonight to give you an overview of social emotional learning and what's going on in our schools around that learning. Let me just first review a quick review of what social emotional learning is and why it's so important. Through social emotional learning, students learn how to manage their emotions, understand their feelings. They learn how to develop the skills and how to set goals and achieve goals. They learn how to feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships. They learn coping skills, how to deal with stress, develop resilience, and learn how to make responsible decisions. And as you know, those are so important in today's time. The social emotional framework on your screen is so very important, and it just kind of ties it all together. In the center of the framework, you see the 5 elements of social emotional learning, which include social awareness, self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, and relationship skills. And the SEL framework involves every student, the entire staff at a school, the families, our communities, and our community supporters. Skills are being taught and practiced in the classroom, but it really encompasses the wider school community. With that overview, why is social emotional learning so essential? I think we all know the answer to that, especially in these times. Students have to be mentally and ready to learn before learning can occur. Research shows that social emotional learning leads to improved academic outcomes and behaviors. And since the pandemic began, we've seen children and our adolescents have higher rates of anxiety, higher rates of depression, more stress in their lives. They have coping skills, they lack coping skills, and even more specific issues such as addictive internet behaviors, and we're seeing more suicide ideations. So there's 3 bullets there at the top of this slide, and recently several health organizations have declared that the pandemic-related decline in child and adolescent mental health has become a national emergency. So with that said, we know in schools that the only way to get students back on track academically is to reduce the mental health barriers to learning. So our goals are pretty simple. You see them there. The first goal is to continue to build a district-wide infrastructure that supports SEL. And Claudia, that's the next screen. And 2, prepare staff to support and teach SEL through modeling, integrated instruction, and define curriculum and programs. And our third goal is to create and provide opportunities for students to actually practice their social emotional skills. So what are we currently doing to build this skill and build this learning? As a Tier 1 support for K through 8, we have purchased a curriculum called Character Strong. It's called Purposeful People in elementary, Character Strong in secondary. The curriculum has been vetted successfully at Sandia Vista Elementary for the past year. There's currently some other elementaries using it as well, but Sandia Vista has vetted it fully for the past year. And their administrators and teachers and counselor and staff have only great things to say about it. One thing that they say that they love is the common language that they all share across the entire campus. They say their teachers, it's no added prep time. Everything's on the software. It comes in English and Spanish. There's a parent engagement newsletter that goes out to parents to let them know what they're working on. If they're working on kindness for the month, they send that out to the parents so they know what they're working on. So it doesn't have to be the counselor or a therapist to present these lessons. It can be presented by your PE teachers in PE, your SAFE coordinators in the SAFE program, your music teachers, your art teachers. In the middle school, we have also purchased the curriculum, and we are going to start implementing and training our middle school counselors and administrators in the spring. We've got that set for April, and we think this is going to work well with their that 35 minutes or 25 minutes they have at the beginning of the day, their homeroom, their soft start. And that is also where the elementary at Sandia Vista is using this curriculum. With that said, I'd like for you to see a short video from Sandia Vista where the counselor actually shows you the curriculum. If you could start that video for us, Claudia. It may not go. She's been having computer problems with starting that.
We can give her just a second.
No.
Sherry, can you present on your end?
Let me see.
Claudia could also send it to Kim. See if we could pick it up here in the office.
Yeah, we could try that. I don't have the video, but if you send me the URL, I could try it.
Oh, here it goes again. Claudia, if we can't present the video clip, maybe we can do that at the end, and I'll just move on to the next slide. Okay, so hopefully we'll get that slide, that video up and running. But the next slide talks about what else is going on in our elementary schools. They are using zones of regulation. And if you walk into the elementary, you'll see a lot of these zones called zones of regulation. And it's basically a systematic cognitive behavioral approach that they're using to teach their students how to regulate their feelings. The goal is that the students will be in the green zone. That means they're ready to learn and they're ready to go. If they're in the blue zone or the caution zone, the yellow zone, then they are taught how to get back to the green zone. If they're in the red zone, they're taught strategies, like I said, to get into the green zone. Take a deep breath, de-stress. And students can tell you what zone they're in. They're very, very familiar with this process. So we're very happy that all of our elementaries are using zones of regulation as well. Several other items that some of the counselors choose to use in certain situations include Kelso's choice, why try, second step, and 7 habits of happy kids. And I have the description there for you to look at. And one that we've used in this district for quite a while is Love and Logic. And it's still being used to teach positive parenting and teaching techniques to build healthy relationships with kids. In our middle schools, our middle school counselors and staff have used the 7 mindsets, which is a free portal that the New Mexico PED has put out. It provides free videos, lessons, curriculum, and activities on topics like relationships, responsible decision-making, self-awareness, and resilience. They are also using theme months, kind of like Character Counts or Character Strong does. They talk about kindness. February was a big kindness month since we had Valentine's Day in there. And the middle schools use those theme months as well. As I said, we are going to be doing some training in April for all of our middle schools on Character Strong and the implementation of that curriculum. And then I also want to point out that we've been using signs of suicide. We have updated that curriculum. Mariah's been working on getting that updated, and we'll continue to be using that program in middle school and high school. It helps students identify signs of depression and suicidal ideation in themselves, as well as in their peers, and it helps them to identify ways to support each other. We're going to be offering some training on that program this spring. So what are we doing in the high schools? Our high school counselors and social workers use a lot of one-on-one with students. They come in with issues. They support them on one-on-one. They have classroom presentations. They use large group presentations. They're also using the early warning system indicators. And one that I want to point out that we're implementing is the Teen Mental Health First Aid program. This is through a partnership with the Department of Health and UNM Health, and it is it's a training that gives high school students the skills to have supportive conversations with their friends and get a response. And if they need to, they can get a responsible adult to take over as necessary. It's designed to be delivered in high schools in interactive classroom sessions where counselors are there and a presenter is there. And it trains our students, in other words, to be advocates for themselves and advocates for their friends. It covers a lot of things, but I'll just mention a few. It covers signs and symptoms of mental illness, substance abuse, mental health crisis, particularly when they see their friends talking about suicide, what they should do, and also talks about bullying and how to help and how to help their peers and always get a trusted adult involved. As I said, we're going to implement this training for our students at Independence High School this spring. And we're meeting with Stephanie Moore and the counselors at Independence to plan that out starting next week. The high schools are also using signs of suicide presentations. And as I said, we've updated that curriculum and purchased that curriculum for our high schools and our middle schools. I'm so thankful that we were able to hire more social workers and counselors in our schools this past year. They have been so helpful. I'm very thankful that we also are able to refer out to 2 agencies for our students who really need in-depth support. We have MOUs with 2 agencies in our city in Albuquerque that students are referred out to on a case-by-case basis. I'm also so thankful that I've had the support of Mariah Appentranger on our team. She comes to the high school. She comes to district office with lots of experience. She's a high school counselor and teacher for many, many years, and she has a wealth of knowledge about social emotional learning. And she's worked with many, many students struggling with mental health issues and supported them over the years. So I'd like for her to share with you with what she has, some positive things that she's discovered when she's working with the counselors.
Thank you. And so I'm just going to talk just briefly. The counseling department in our schools are near and dear to my heart, obviously. And we know everyone in the school supports social emotional learning for our students. But when we think about it, I know oftentimes we think about the school counselor. And we are lucky in this district to have a large number of school counselors so that our ratio between counselor to student is a lot lower than a lot of other districts. And so I am very grateful for that when I was a school counselor. And now I have the opportunity to work with school counselors. So Sherry kind of talked about in the larger context how we're supporting SEL, but I kind of wanted to bring it down. And I asked our counselors kind of what are some of the things that you've done this year to support SEL? What are some things I could share with the school board? and with our community about what positive things you've been doing when it's been such a hard couple of years for all of us, for everyone during COVID. So I had a lot of counselors kind of just throw out a few things. So I just wanted to share a couple with you real quickly. One of our schools, they have these things called minute meetings, which are really awesome. I'm just finding out about them in the elementaries, where they actually make it a point to pull each kiddo out and visit with them. Even if it's just for a minute, they learn something about every student. The student identifies who their counselor is. One of the schools started a peer mentorship program where they have their 4th and 5th graders mentoring the younger students, which I think is just awesome, because I know when you're little and you look up to older students, that's a really great thing. A lot of our counselors applied for and received their own SEL grants for their schools, so they've been able to provide a lot of SEL support by the work they did in getting that monies in themselves. A lot of our counselors talked about kind of a calming zone or kind of a Zen zone maybe for their students in the classroom, and also for the teachers. You know, I know a lot of our counselors have been supporting the staff on their campus too during this time. So maybe they did a little breathing exercises or some really practical ways of helping kids kind of cope. And then just some really simple things, like a student said to a counselor, "Hey, thanks for making me feel calm." And that's huge for a student who's feeling a lot of stuff on the inside, just to feel calm. And then we always, as counselors, appreciate teachers allowing us into their classroom to talk about some of these things. So just a lot of them said they were really proud that their staff is so supportive of letting them into the classrooms and presenting on SEL topics. So I appreciate, Sherry and I both appreciate the opportunity to talk to you tonight just a little bit. And that kind of concludes. We wanted to conclude on a high. So are there any questions for us?
All right. Yeah, I'll start going through the board for any questions or comments. I do have to say, just really quick, as you were giving those kind of comments from the school counselors, I've noticed my younger 2 kids who are in the middle school right now, just really have been really trying so hard to kind of develop that relationship with all the kids at that middle school level. And it's been so appreciative as a parent just to see some of those things and the communication that they've been sending out to parents. I think they've been really doing a great job. That's over at Eagle Ridge. So that's my shout out to the Eagle Ridge counselors. All right. We'll do Gary. And I do have to say too that we were all sad when Mariah, I was so glad she's in the district office, and so sad when she wasn't one of our school counselors, because she was a great counselor at that level.
Amanda,
So,
do you mind if I try to share that video that Sherry had?
Let's do that, and then we'll go over to the board.
Hopefully it works.
I know. That'll be great, because I love Sandia Vista.
You how Sandia Vista uses Character Strong. So we have been using Character Strong this school year. I'm the school counselor at Sandia Vista, and I attended a demonstration. Hi, I'm here to share with you how Sandia Vista uses Character Strong. So we have been using Character Strong this school year. I am Jamie David. I'm the school counselor at Sandia Vista, and I attended a demonstration in the spring of last year from Character Strong, and right away went and grabbed my administrators to ask them to come hear about the program and what it had to offer. So I really noticed right away that the focus was on 10 character traits and also social emotional learning skills that we want our students to have. And I didn't know too much about MLSS at the time, but the layer 1 focus for social emotional learning, this just tied right in perfectly. And there's a big component on staff, and I really liked that it would help build culture and climate after a tough couple of years. I know that that's something that's ongoing, that's needed, and this program really works hard to build relationships not only with students but also with staff. I really liked that there's playground activities, and then there's also a family piece, which I thought was great to help build that connection with our school community. So families are able to see what we're learning about this month at Sandia Vista and ways that they can implement the same character education at home. So here at Sandia Vista, our teachers use this program during the soft start, which is when students first get to the building. They go straight to their classrooms, and the teachers have the Character Strong curriculum up. And so our school chose the 10 traits. We do one a month. This is what the program looks like when we log in. So you'll see that courage, this under each trait, there's resources for teachers, which include these illustrations for download and quotes, an implementation guide for teachers. Then there's also materials for pre-K, which my school has the Montessori preschool. So that was a really great thing that was a part of Character Strong. And then for this year, the content is split into grades K through 2 and 3 through 5. Next year, the program has made a lot of updates, and so it'll be for each grade level. They'll each have their own content. There's also a home newsletter for grades K through 2 and also a home newsletter for 3 through 5, and those are both in Spanish. There's staff challenges with each character trait each month. There's playground activities and also reading lists for teachers. So it really covers a lot of ground. So this is an example of one of the character traits. They have these beautiful definitions for each trait that you can print, English and in Spanish. I love this. Empathy, the ability to understand and connect to the feelings of another. This is what the implementation guide looks like for teachers. So if you were a first grade teacher, on Monday, you would click on Define Courage and it would take you to that day's activity. Our teachers have flexibility and can use the material how they would like to for their grade level. But this is a really great implementation guide that makes no prep, click and go. Everything on here is available through online. And so teachers are able to pull it up and be ready for the day within minutes. This is an example of a quote. This is for kindness. So there are several quotes for each month for each.
So I asked Claudia to stop the video there. It's about 12 minutes long. So if you'd like to watch the full video, I'll send that to you. But at the very end, something that touched me was a teacher who said, you know what? I just love it because it gives us a common language in the school. I teach math and we're talking about perseverance. And my kids have learned to persevere through their math lesson. And I just thought, that's really what we need. We need to teach skills again to our students. The first one being respect and responsibility, in my opinion. So I just really like this Character Strong curriculum. They do have it at the high school level, but we'd like to vet it at the middle school before we go ahead and expand it to the high school level. Thank you, everyone, for allowing us to present.
No, I'm glad that you did that. And let me just run through everyone real quick. Gary Tripp, do you have any questions, comments?
I do. I want to thank Mariah for being my daughter's counselor and how wonderful she's always been, and Sherry as well. Sherry, it was great. I really enjoyed this presentation because I think it shows the transparency to the community, and I hope a lot of people are watching this school board meeting because I think the community needs to understand how hard our educators and all our adults in the district are working to try to work on what Sherry mentioned, this high level of stress, this high level of anxiety, and this high level of depression that we're going through in this country or in this world, and with everything that's been related. I wanted to kind of mention that I was really touched since I've been trying to do a lot of research on this the last few months. It's dear to my heart. And I saw one of the comments about strategies to try to get out of this stress, anxiety, and depression. I saw one of the counselors' comments talking about breathing, meditation, and yoga and how we need to relax and so forth. I wanted to mention to every staff member that's out there that's listening that I wish we could give every adult a break after 90 minutes so they can recover and move forward and have the energy to deal with these wonderful kids that we have to deal with. And in America, we just don't do that. We just work and work and work and work, and we don't take enough breaks. But if you're an adult out there, you need to take some oxygen in, because you gotta save yourself before you can save somebody else when we're dealing with this crisis. Um, but one thing I like to suggest is, and I don't know if we do this on Parent University or not. So kind of a suggestion is, things like Love and Logic or other programs that we have, maybe we can do something on Parent University for our bus drivers, and because they're so important. Love and Logic teaches us that they're the first ones that the child sees, and they're the last ones that the child see every day. So maybe there's something we can do for them, and also for parents, because how they send them off to school and how they greet them when they come home. So many of these things add up to alleviate stress, anxiety, and depression. So my suggestion is that, and something that I know that this is just food for later on, and I think it's just important to show the transparency to our community that we're doing a great job in Rio Rancho, but like Dr. Clemens says, there's so much more we can do. But and down the road, Sherry, maybe just how we're working on everybody, how they recognize and report child abuse and neglect. That's another area that's a terrible situation in our country, in our world, in our community. So maybe later on we can demonstrate to the community. But I just love the report, and I thank you so much, Sherry and Mariah, for presenting tonight. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And we'll go over to Noreen Scott.
Yes, Mariah and Sherry, I appreciated the presentation. I would like to see the whole video. So if you get a chance, please send it forward. I was very impressed with the whole presentation. It looks like a wonderful program, and I'd love to learn more about it.
Great. Thank you. And Jeffrey Morgan.
I don't have any questions. Just a comment. Very good work. Very good presentation. And I'm like Gary. These things are so important to all of us, not just our students, but to all of us. But what a great way to get our kids to focus on the most important things. The young lady mentioned responsibility. Well, how critical that is today. I think all of us see on TV or whatever the case may be, nobody wants to take responsibility for their actions anymore. So I think it's rather great to see that we start now to help kids understand that you are responsible for your actions. Not necessarily focus on what you've done, but focus on how we can improve so we don't make those same mistakes again. So very good job. Thank you so much.
And then Jessica Tyler.
Yeah, thank you, Sherry and Mariah. And I know that, these programs can be difficult to roll out, but I really do think we need to try to get them to the high school level as well. It can be scary to try to teach this skill set, I think, more so for the older kids than the younger kids. I think sometimes it feels more natural to work on these character attributes and these perishable social skills at a younger age, and it can feel a little bit more awkward, I feel like, for teachers at the high school level. So I like the fact that the curriculum would be presented to them, and again, not adding another thing to a teacher's plate, asking them to create more curriculum. And especially, like I said, I think the comfort level would be better for high school teachers knowing that there's a structured curriculum. And so I think that's an important thing for us to provide for them. And then I just wanted to say, I think we so much focus on just that the pandemic led to higher stress levels, but also I think social and emotional learning is even more so needed to be focused on in just the type of world that we live in, with being so dependent upon our electronics. So I think we already saw some of those skills sets changing or diminishing amongst our students. And then obviously it was compounded by the pandemic and being more isolated. And so I think it's great that we're refocusing on this. And again, even more so providing the teachers with the curriculum and support that they need to try to tackle this as well. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then Dr. Cleveland, did you want to add anything?
No, not, well, just one quick thought. You know, it is overwhelming. There are a lot of people in need, a lot of people hurting, you know, but it can't immobilize us. It is a huge issue. But we've got to just start working on it. And so I really appreciate the efforts that have been put in with Sherry and Mariah to start that conversation. We're also very excited that Mariah will have more time now to work on that as COVID begins to decline a little bit, because it has just taken over her life. And she'll have more time. That was really her hope, her goal originally would be to work on some of these things and support Sherry and student services in it. So it's a big task, it's a big job, but you know, we're just going to have to jump in, even if we don't have everything exactly the way we want it right now. And I think they've got a really good start and a good foundation on which to build even further. So thank you both for it was a great presentation. It's just a good reminder for all of us. Sometimes we forget all the things we have that are going on to support our students and families. So thank you.
Thank you. And then I see Gary Tripp, you have your hand raised. Did you have another question, comment?
Just a thank you. I forgot to mention, I wrote it down, and that's the traffic patrol officers, our adults, when kids are going and coming from school. The last few months, I just noticed Sharon over at Ernest Stapleton or Big Mike at Rio Rancho Mid School, but you go to any school, they're out there in the battlefields, and I just wanted to make sure that they know that we notice that they're doing a great job, and I know that we rely on every adult that's out there working in our district. I just wanted to say how much we appreciate them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for adding that. And Sherry, I have one more question too for you. How are we kind of measuring our success with this? And if you presented that and I missed it, I'm so sorry. But how are we measuring our success as this curriculum kind of rolls out to see? I mean, you talked about putting it into the high school. So how are we kind of measuring some of those things?
One of the measurements will be the lessening of behavior referrals that we're getting, discipline referrals. And I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I believe Mrs. Gentet, the principal at Sandia Vista Elementary, is reporting that her discipline referrals have decreased. So we can definitely track our discipline referrals as well on that. That's one way I'm thinking we can see the success of the program. Okay. A lot, and it goes hand in hand with PBIS and the MLSS. And all of that is the goal is to improve academic performance and lessen discipline referrals, as well as support social emotional learning.
I love that. I think that's great. That's good. That's awesome. So they're starting to already see a decrease in, is that at Sandia Vista? Is that where they're seeing?
Right. Yeah. An example of I said they were stressing kindness. And so when a student was bullying another student, the conversation was, what have we talked about this month in February? We've talked a lot about kindness. Is that the way you should treat your fellow peer? Is that kindness? So they kind of center their whole conversations around the word and the topic that they're discussing.
I absolutely love that. So thank you. Thank you for presenting that. Anyone else, any other board members or okay. Anything else from you, Sherry or Mariah, that you want to add before we're done? Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for presenting that tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll now go to item H to approve our consent agenda. Any questions or anything on the consent?
I move approval of the consent agenda. This is Secretary Noreen Scott.
This is Board Member Jeff Morgan. I second.
Okay. We have a motion by Noreen Scott and a second by Jeffrey Morgan. And Kim, can you take a roll call vote for us on that?
Yes. Vice President Morgan,
Yes.
Secretary Scott,
Yes.
Board Member Tripp,
Yes.
Board Member Tyler,
Yes.
and President Galbraith.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Okay, and now we'll move into our business portion. For item A, it's to consider the approval of the unapproved February 14th, 2022 regular board meeting minutes. Any changes that anyone saw that needs to take place on those minutes? Not a motion.
This is Secretary Scott. I move approval of the unapproved 2/14/2022 regular board meeting minutes.
Board Member Jessica Tyler seconds the motion.
We have a motion by Noreen Scott and a second by Jessica Tyler. Kim, can you take a roll call for us?
Yes, ma'am. Vice President Morgan,
Yes.
Secretary Scott,
Yes.
Board Member Tripp,
Yes.
Board Member Tyler,
Yes.
President Galbraith.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Okay, for our next item B, consider the authorization for Rio Rancho Public Schools to apply for Boys and Girls Club grants for their before and after school programs. We have Renee Saucedo, our secondary school improvement officer, on to present. And Renee, I feel like I haven't seen you in a while, so it's nice to see you.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. It's been a while.
Yeah.
There for a while, you couldn't get rid of me, right?
Well, we love seeing you, so it's all good.
Madam President Galbraith, Dr. Cleveland, members of the board, I am excited to report to you that the Boys and Girls Club have approached Rio Rancho Public Schools to apply for a 2-year grant that will provide an after-school program for our middle school students at Lincoln Middle School and also at Eagle Ridge Middle School beginning next school year. As Dr. Cleveland stated, she initially met with the representatives of the Boys and Girls Club, and then I met with Catherine Rodriguez, principal of Eagle Ridge, Jennifer Daddio, the principal of Lincoln Middle School, along with Colby Wilson, Randy Bresler, and Christian Ney from the Boys and Girls Club. They're suggesting that we will have, that we'll apply for this grant, which is $50,000 per year per school, and that'll be for 2 years. It will be, we're not anticipating any cost other than the use of our facilities, and it will be at no cost to parents. This is going to be a nice addition for our middle schools for our students at those 2 schools. They're looking at it probably going till about 6 o'clock in the evening. And so basically what I'm here for today is to request your approval that we move forward in applying for this grant with the Boys and Girls Club. And it's short and sweet, and I stand for questions.
All right, thank you. This is wonderful. Any questions or comments? We'll just go by the raise of your virtual hand if you have a question or comment. Oh, okay, Jessica Tyler, go ahead.
Thank you. My question is will we be the fiduciary, and is it that we contract, I guess? So I take it that we will be the ones applying for the grant or applying for the grant in conjunction with the Boys and Girls Club?
Correct.
Okay. And then we will, but they would be the sole contractor, if you will.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And they've written this grant. They've already written it with some schools in Albuquerque. So they're really doing the majority of the work as far as actually writing the grant.
Okay. Excellent.
And they're hopeful that if we're successful with these 2 middle schools, that we can move into our other 2 middle schools. Dr. Cleveland had mentioned Rio Rancho Middle, but like she said, they're having that huge HVAC project next year. So we were afraid that there wouldn't be the facility use that we needed.
Great. Thank you.
Gary Tripp.
My question, maybe it's more for the Finance Committee, Madam President and Renee, but maybe it's just for food for thought. And that is, if it's 50,000 per school per year, I wondered if they would accept a matching grant and we do the other middle schools. But if we're doing Rio Rancho middle schools HVAC, but it's hard to leave any kid out.
I know.
Especially if Mike Baker can come up with a trick out of his hat. It's another 50,000 for the other schools. So that's just food for thought, I guess, for the Finance Committee.
Yeah, I'll leave that to Mr. Baker.
It's a good thought. All right. Noreen Scott.
Yes, I'd like to move to approve the authorization for us to apply for Boys and Girls Club grants for before and after school programs.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Noreen Scott and a second by Jessica Tyler. Any other discussion before we go into vote from anyone? Okay. Kim, can you go ahead and take a roll call vote for us?
I heard about 3 voices seconding that. So who actually did?
So I put for my second on my sheet, I put Jessica Tyler. That's the one that I heard. And
Okay. All right. Thank you. Vice President Morgan?
Yes.
Secretary Scott?
Yes.
Board Member Tripp?
Yes.
Board Member Tyler?
Yes.
President Galbraith?
yes.
And the motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Thank you, Renee. And once again, it's nice to see you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, for item C, consider approval of the New Mexico School Board Association Student Achievement Award nomination for 2022. And so this is up on the screen for us. And so I have to say that I too, every time this one comes out, I always get it confused with our student one, which will be coming up here pretty soon as well. But for this time, so this is from our district that we received, and you can see probably in your email you received from Joe Guillen that they were accepting these student achievement awards, and so that has first come out. We have, and so now we're working on our deadline. I'm going to ask Dr. Cleveland if she wants to go ahead and talk a little bit about our nominee for this one that came from the district office, which I think is honestly a wonderful idea. So I'll go ahead and hand it to her to discuss that.
The person that we are recommending the board to consider for this role is Joe Sanchez, who has been our nurse coordinator in the district for several years. And she has done an absolutely fabulous job as we work through the pandemic, working with PMG, getting the site set up, supporting the school nurses, supporting the principals, and has just been just phenomenal. Joe is going to be retiring this year, and we now have Lynn Wheeler, who has come in to take the position. But we thought it would be very fitting to recognize her for her work. I would also like Sherry Carver to be able to say a few things as well, since she works at Student Services.
Okay, Sherry, if you'd like to jump on, I'd love to hear from you.
I would just like to echo what Dr. Cleveland has just said. It's been a joy to work with Joe these 6 months I've been here at district office. Her knowledge, her experience, and just her calm demeanor is so wonderful. And we are truly going to miss Joe and everything that she has done for us and done for everyone during COVID, and just supported our nurses to, in every crisis. She's always there for them. She works during the weekends, at night. She's always available. And I just can't say enough nice things about Joe Sanchez. Truly going to miss her.
One of the things, you go back to, why student achievement? But if students aren't well and they're not in school and we don't support them in that way, they can't learn very well. And so she has really worked hard to keep our COVID cases down as much as we could, and to keep our students in school. And when they are in school, to support them with the health needs that they may have. So it's maybe not as direct as some people might think, but it is more direct than most know. And so that is our recommendation on behalf of the administration.
Okay. Thank you. It's interesting, Sherry, right? As you were saying, calm demeanor, right before you even said that, I thought that as you were kind of going through her characteristics, I was like, and calm demeanor. And then you said it right after that. And that's how I think of her too. I've just been amazed at how she has helped us to kind of get through the crisis that we just went through this last year. So thank you for sharing that. So we can go ahead and just discuss this. I'll discuss with the board. So like Dr. Cleveland said, we can nominate someone else. So I think Joe is a perfect nomination from the district. So I'll just go to the board and just let you kind of add anything if you want to say anything. We'll start with Gary Tripp.
You know, I would concur with everything that Dr. Cleveland and Sherry just said, and as well as you, Madam President. So, I think that's a exceptional, good choice, and what a model citizen and work person that has committed to the kids of our district. I thank her for a lot of things. Thank you.
Thank you. Noreen Scott, any comments?
I concur. I think this is a great nomination and I support it.
Thank you. Jessica Tyler, you want to add anything?
I also support the recommendation.
And Jeff Morgan?
I'm okay with the recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We can go for a motion if someone would like to create that.
I'm not good at making motions, Madam President, but I'll try. So I recommend Joe Sanchez for the Excellence in Student Achievement Award that Rio Rancho Public Schools as Rio Rancho Public Schools nomination to the New Mexico School Board Association.
This is Noreen Scott. I second.
Okay, that was well done, Board Member Tripp. And we have a motion by Gary Tripp and a second by Noreen Scott. And Kim, if you would go ahead and take a roll call vote for us.
Okay, and the way I have this is motion to recommend Joe Sanchez as the RRPS Board's nomination for the Excellence in Student Achievement Award. Is that kind of what you did, Mr. Tripp?
Yes, to the New Mexico School Boards Association. Yep.
All right. Okay, great. Thank you. Vice President Morgan.
Yes.
Secretary Scott.
We can't hear you, Noreen.
Secretary Scott. Okay, we'll come back. Board Member Tripp.
Yes.
Board Member Tyler.
Yes.
President Galbraith.
Yes.
Secretary Scott, I see you're there, but
I don't know what we do with that, but she has already stated that she supports the recommendation.
Yeah, and she seconded it, so I think that's a yes, probably, right? Okay,
Yeah.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thanks. Okay. All right. With that, Dr. Cleveland, before I go into advanced planning, anything else?
No, there's not. I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thanks. So for our advanced planning, we have March 3rd will be parent-teacher conferences at the elementary level. March 4th will be parent-teacher conferences both at the elementary and middle school. March 14th is our next regular board meeting at 5:30. Please plan to be in the boardroom for that. March 21st through the 25th will be spring break. March 29th, that is a Tuesday, so please take note of that. Will be a board workshop and special board meeting. And then April 11th, we'll have our regular board meeting at 5:30. Also, tomorrow is a day to vote, so I hope everyone gets out and votes in the election. So anything that needs to be added to advanced planning that was missed?
I did.
Go ahead,
President,
Gary.
March 29th on Tuesday. What time are we starting, did you say?
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have the time on that. Kim, do you remember what time we decided for that one?
Yeah, I was going to mention that there are a couple of board members that have indicated they're not available on the 29th.
Okay. Okay.
So I don't know if you guys want to look at another date or maybe that week.
Okay, we can come back and kind of discuss that. Dr. Cleveland, did you want to?
Yeah, we could do the 28th. We were just thinking there are people that may be traveling and coming back off spring break, and so whether that would be very convenient or not. But we could send out a poll and a doodle poll or something that would check and see what dates everyone is available, and then come back with another date. So we could do the 28th. We just thought it might not be very convenient for everyone. So.
Yeah, this will be the redistricting that we're going to pull out those maps and take a look at those things. So we just want to make sure too, as our district staff is coming out of spring break as well, that everyone has time to prepare sufficiently for that. So why don't we go ahead and send out a poll if that's okay with you, Dr. Cleveland, and just check. And maybe Monday is the best for everyone, but if we can, we'll just kind of get a feel for it. So that one may change. So everyone, that one may change. Okay.
We need everybody at this meeting.
Mm-hmm.
This is a meeting that we really need 100% of the board. So we will need to kind of work around to make sure that everybody is impacted. So we really do hope that everyone can be there. The other thing that we certainly are asking on this particular topic is that the board really do spend some time looking and studying the maps to be prepared so that when we do come together, everyone will be able to really help us decide as a district where those districts will be. So if we needed to push it back, I think we can do that. It's just one thing we would like to get out of the way before the end of the school year if possible. So we will send out a poll, President Galbraith, and see if we can't find a date that works for everyone.
Okay.
But we do need everyone there. Yeah.
Dr. Cleveland, this is Noreen Scott. Will you have some physical maps that are large enough to read, where we could really kind of look at them? Is that possible?
Yes, and then there's also an electronic tool that will be very helpful to you as well, and that we will provide both. We have this electronic tool that allows you to zoom into any area and see everything in great detail. We used it for boundary committees, and our parent community really liked it. But we can provide both, and I also think that the way we've done it in the past, by putting those maps up for the community also see, is just a really good thing as well. So to your answer, yes, we can and we'll do that.
If I may, I'm working on getting those maps from Michael Sharp, and he has them. We're having trouble transmitting them because they're very, very large computer files. But we'll keep at that and let you know when we have them.
Can we have them print them and then just buy them from them?
Say again, Dr. Cleveland, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
She's wondering if we could have them actually print those maps for us, and then we can just purchase the print out from them instead of us having to print them.
I can ask the question, yes.
No. I'm sorry, Kim, you're cutting out for me. You may not be for other people, but it's kind of cutting out. But we'll work on that.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll work on it.
Okay. Sounds good. So that's it for any other questions on advanced planning. Okay. So now we'll consider a motion to convene in an executive session to meet with legal counsel for the purpose of discussing pending litigation with Karen Bollinger Warner versus the Board of Education of Rio Rancho Public Schools, case number D-1329-CV-2020-00517, under section 10-15(1)H7 of the New Mexico Open Meetings Act, specifically to update the board regarding recent developments in the case. Do we have a motion?
Can we consider your statement the motion?
Yeah, I think you can just say so moved. I think that
So
that
moved.
would work.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll second
Second.
it. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion by Noreen Scott and a second by, I believe, Gary Tripp. And then Kim, can you take a roll call vote for us on this? So we can...
Yes. Vice President Morgan,
Yes.
Secretary Scott,
Yes.
Board Member Tripp,
Yes.
Board Member Tyler,
Yes.
and President Galbraith.
Yes.
And a reminder to the board that we will be adjourning into a different meeting room for the executive session, and then we'll be returning back to this meeting room when you finish the executive session to report out. And President Galbraith, you can just text me when you're ready to report out.
Okay.
So I can
Sounds
pop on.
Okay.
We need to learn how to do rooms. We'll work on that for the future.
That's all.
Yeah, well, the separate meeting room is because it is an executive session. So
Okay. All right. Well, that motion carries. So I will meet you all in the executive session here in just a moment. We'll see you back in a little bit, Kim.